Hello, everybody. This is Alicia and Liz, and we are Yellowjackets Decoded. And we're back today to take a deep dive into season 2, episode 5, Two Truths and a Lie. Hey, Liz.
Hi.
Well, that was a big episode, huh?
It had a lot of action. It was very propellant. That's not a word. We're gonna cut that out.
Propellant. I don't know. Maybe no, propellant's a word. Maybe not as a verb. It's a noun.
Moving forward of the story.
Yeah.
No, it was a good episode. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier and I'd mentioned that I'd heard some of the actresses in interviews prior to this in getting ready for this season, for season 2. I'd heard a couple of the actresses, one being young Shauna.
Yeah, Sophie Nélisse or Nélisse.
Now let's see.
Yeah.
Saying that episodes 5 and 6, 6 in particular, were difficult for her to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And other actors saying the same thing that it says. So I think it looks like Shauna's gonna have her baby.
Have the baby, yeah. And it also, to me, it felt like we were really we were at the midpoint, so the pacing is starting to pick up in terms of big things happening. We see in the preview for the next episode that we finally get the adult versions of all the ladies reunited, which
pieces are falling into place.
Yeah.
As to where we're moving.
Right.
What we're moving towards. And I think that's the we have to go back a moment.
We have to go. You're right.
We have to go back.
We have to go back. We brought it home with us.
Right.
Yeah. Although I don't know, so it's interesting too to this sort of, we brought it home, we brought it back with us. But we were talking last week, and you said the writers had mentioned that really nothing had happened until now. So,
it's been 25 years later of dormant activity.
Right.
Whatever psychic mechanisms they were using to cope, the survivor's guilt, the trauma, the coping skills from being in that situation are returning, seemingly out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah. What's activated it, and why wasn't it activated before?
Right. Trying to make sense of it. And I think that they're finding that only their cohorts can understand or help them understand. And simultaneously, the more time they spend together, maybe the more things are happening.
Right.
What I like is that the writers keep saying, we want it to remain ambiguous. Is there something supernatural occurring, or is there an explanation for all of this?
Right.
That could be, that is not supernatural.
I've noticed that some people get really staunchly against there being a supernatural answer for things. We found this with Servant too. I personally find that a little curious, because you're watching these shows where
weird things are happening.
Yeah. So why be so staunch? You're watching the show.
Right. What, you don't want weird noises and mysteries and unexplained phenomenon?
Right. Why are you watching?
Documentary.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch reality TV.
Right. Okay, so we've got the opening sequence, which I loved. I loved the song choice, and I just really felt like the
song choice. What's going on?
Yes.
Yeah. What's on everyone's minds? What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought it fit Van, and I really felt like in that, getting to watch her just sort of wake up and have it wasn't long. It was, maybe a minute or so, but I just felt like it really made me get adult Van. I knew, I sort of got a sense of what was going on for her, or what her life might be like right now, just by that minute of daily routine that they showed us.
Totally. What I wrote was a self-arrested development. It's like she's cocooned herself in this safe place. The 90s, almost as if she's wishing, or she's waiting for a second chance to grow up without having been impaired by that accident, and then the 19 months.
That's a really interesting way to like I didn't even think about that, but that's great. You're right. That's does seem very much like what she was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's her safe space.
Yeah.
I noted it's beyond off the grid, that remark Jessica Roberts had made, some of you really like to live off the grid. Living out of time.
Right. Yeah.
And I liked that.
Yeah.
It tells you a lot you learn a lot about who adult Van is.
Right.
What did you make of the donut and 7-Up for breakfast?
I kind of just chuckled and I just one of the things that I did struggle slightly with this episode was that I actually didn't feel like
The addiction piece?
no, that was fine. I did have some questions about that, but like I didn't feel like as much of a connection between adult Van and the Van that we're experiencing in the past right now.
Same
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
Like she looks like her and
Yeah.
acts same mannerisms, same way of speaking, but there wasn't a lot of crossover, or I don't really how to put it. How there weren't really any callbacks or references other than I know Ty
Right.
and I know Ty's behavior back then.
Exactly.
Yeah, no talks about no talk about her scars or I think I know what you mean.
Yeah. I don't know. I just and it could also be because I do love Lauren Ambrose, but I did still feel a lot of Claire from 6 Feet Under. Like I definitely still felt more of that vibe coming in.
It comes with some baggage.
And so in my mind, it was kind of challenging for me to see Van because it's just what she's doing with this character reminds me so much of her previous character from 6 Feet Under. So maybe that was kind of blocking me mentally a little bit, which I didn't feel that way with Servant because Dorothy, it was so
Iconic.
very different, you know. And I think that Lauren's got excellent range, and I don't think it's and maybe there are elements of Claire from 6 Feet Under as a character that are similar to Van, and so it's probably fine and appropriate. But yeah, for whatever reason, it was just like a little hard for me to see Van as much as I see like the other younger versions in their adult selves.
One point is so we had this season we have the introduction of 2 new survivors in adult time, Lottie and Van. With Lottie, we got to meet her in the cult, which was, we got shades of that with Lottie being Lottie back in the wilderness doing her woo-woo stuff. So moving to adult Lottie, meeting her as she's in the middle of her cult, running her cult, doing her thing, that was immediate crossover, right?
Yeah.
But with Van, we didn't get that.
Right.
Yeah. And the other point I wanted to make was that the actress who plays young Van, she's a known actor. I've seen her in other things like Santa Clarita Diet with Drew Barrymore, which I loved, and Timothy Olyphant. Great show on Netflix. But so she'd been hired and was originally going to be killed in the plane accident.
Yeah.
And then she was going to be killed in the wolf attack.
Right.
But the writers and creators have said that they loved her so much, the actress and the energy and what she brought to Van so much that they couldn't let her go. They couldn't kill her.
Which I'm glad that they didn't. Maybe also the other part of this for me is that like the current version of Van in the wilderness is more is beginning to like connect more with nature and sort of buy into some of this existential nature as God thing. But she wasn't like that initially. She was harder. I feel like the vulnerability that we're seeing in Van in the current wilderness timeframe was probably not the same as like before she was attacked by the wolf. And maybe, I mean, do you think that that's part of it?
Yeah.
The necessity to like let her guard down and be vulnerable occurred, but that's not her normal sort of comfort zone.
I was going to say that I think that the actress, I think it would be difficult to recreate that kind of vivacity and energy pre-attack or pre-drinking the Kool-Aid
Right.
as an adult playing her. The actress is just so unique in her energy. But yeah, adult Van, we're seeing her very much walled up, shored up, and protected.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you're saying.
That is what I'm saying. Yeah. And I was curious about like what created that or why that is, which maybe we'll find out.
Yeah.
And then on the like flip side of that, Ty walks in, and as soon as she's, has that moment with Van where they say, she acknowledges her and she collapses.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, we've seen Ty as an adult. We've seen adult Ty being so sort of guarded and defensive and trying so hard to appear as though she has her stuff together.
Yeah.
And so she finally made it to the safe place where she could fall apart, and then her body just gave out because it was like her journey to get here was so exhausting, but now she feels safe, and so boom, we see her collapse in that moment.
I wrote Ty faints once safely in Van's presence.
See?
Same thing.
You and me, we're on the same page.
Quick. Gotcha. Yeah.
One of the things that I felt about this episode, like one of the themes of the episode, I thought was the juxtaposition or the just the observance of both how nature can be incredibly beautiful and incredibly treacherous.
Ooh.
And we're sort of we don't really have control over that. The opening shot of the wilderness, I just thought was so beautiful. The sun coming up, and there was such like a peacefulness to it and a majesty to it, versus where the episode ends with this huge blizzard where everything is just kind of chaos around them, leading into, what will be Shauna in labor. So I just thought that was a theme that maybe came up throughout the episode, or something that they were trying to, just get us to feel as the audience.
Oh, Alicia, I think that's a brilliant point. That went totally over my head watching the episode, but hearing you say it, absolutely. It's a great metaphor for what's going to happen next episode for childbirth.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. I think you're spot on.
Thank you. Did you notice that they kept showing the icicles repeatedly?
I did. I just took it as, spring is coming.
Passage of time. Yeah.
We had a little time jump, like, 1 month, maybe?
That was the issue that I was having during this episode in particular. And I've had it a little bit throughout the series, but right now in particular, because obviously we jump time, but I just find it hard to know where we're at in time throughout this series. Particularly in the past. In the present, it's not quite as confusing because it's all very sort of immediate. But in the past, man, I don't, it's like I was very confused because I'm like, she was not that pregnant when we left off.
I know.
And I guess like the writers are going, we've got to move this story forward.
Yeah.
In the past, we're not going to, like track every moment of the 9 months or whatever. But I guess the icicles, by the time I was writing my notes, that's kind of what I got. I was like, okay, well, I guess the icicles melting, like that's supposed to show us time passage. But I would like a little bit more guidance in like how much time passed, or where are we at in time at that point.
In the past,
how long have they been doing the prayer circle at the beginning of the day? And
girl doesn't want to miss the dance, the one that we're trauma bonded. Her New Jersey accent, I can't do it. Cut that out.
And she would have been already pregnant, but did she know she was pregnant at that point, or did she not realize it till she was stranded?
I don't know. She'd gotten the early acceptance letter to Brown.
Yeah.
I don't think that she knew, or she did, like she just found out.
Yeah. So we're like 9 months essentially into, or 8 months maybe.
So let's say what's May plus 8 would make it like February.
Yeah.
Ish. Because it's like the end of winter.
Yeah.
They made
February-ish.
Their first winter.
Okay. Yeah. That tracks. That makes sense. Cool.
Another theme that I noted, it's a really obvious one, is truth and lies.
Yes.
In almost every scene,
Hmm.
there's someone trying to deceive someone else, or someone trying to get truth or answers from someone else.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
So,
That's true.
really brilliant deduction there for an episode
um,
called Two Truths and a Lie. Well, I mean, it runs throughout, but
But
yeah, I
yeah,
get,
exactly. It's kind of an overarching theme anyway.
and
Oh,
I,
one thing that I did notice that I thought was cool too. So as like at the beginning when they are starting off in the past and they're doing the prayer circle,
yeah,
in the present at Lottie's cult place, they show us a little sign that has like all these arrows, and one of them says share circle.
oh, nice.
Yeah. And so I just thought, isn't this interesting how here in the wilderness in the past, we sort of see the beginning of what Lottie eventually creates in the future with her
I wrote the
business.
same thing in my notes.
Yeah,
You and I are developing our own psychic bond.
we are.
It makes me feel better to believe it, so I believe it is so.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, and we talked about this, that this show in particular, the way the scenes transition, I think that you get a lot of information.
You do. Yep. I wrote that down too, like the juxtaposition or the cool transitions and what they are trying to tell you by the way that they create those transitions. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved how they talked about the cold. It was funny because they were like, how does the cold make you feel? And I just out loud said alive because I love cold weather. I don't want to sit outside and freeze, and I was like, it makes me feel alive. And then they said it, as they were going around. I was like, exactly. That is how it makes me feel.
Oh, I feel the opposite. I feel so alive in the warmth. Like I need to move to the south. Yeah, like a warm night, or just walking out into the day and wearing nothing but cutoffs and a tank top. I just feel so invigorated and alive.
I wish I felt that way.
We will trade home.
We'll trade locations. And then they also talked about what they were hearing.
Yeah. Oh, I actually wrote down the line. Lottie says, "What do we feel?" And Mari says, "The cold. It makes my cheeks burn, but it also makes me feel awake, like really awake." And then Van says, "It makes me feel alive." Lottie says, "Good. Now what do we hear?" And then Misty and Crystal both say singing, and they laugh and giggle. I noted with Lottie's, I called it the tree cult circle, I think. What I noted was in the Lottie circle, leading her nature listening. Oh, that's what I wrote. Lottie outside leading nature listening circle. The order in which they're all sitting with relation to Lottie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Almost as if proximity is related to depth of belief.
Okay.
So on Lottie's right is Mari, and then Travis. And on her left is Misty.
Right.
Misty, I wouldn't argue, is one of the biggest believers, but she was there with Van at the end of season 1. She's always ready to follow.
Yeah. Well, and be a part of something too.
Right. But Mari and Travis almost already seems like her right-hand person.
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Oh, so
and I think it's because he is still searching and believing, and he sees her because as like she believed that Javi was still alive, and so that had a huge impact on him.
Yeah.
And he also seems like he likes to sort of be attached to someone, and it used to be Nat and now it's Lottie.
Yeah.
Which,
traitor.
Yeah.
When they're doing the listening circle, when they talk about like what do you feel, what do you hear, Lottie says, she finishes what we hear by saying, "Good. We're tuning into nature and to each other. That connection is what's going to protect us, and we need to nurture it, especially now." And then she looks at Shauna, who's looking at them from afar, and says, "A new life is coming, and we can't wait to meet him." And then everyone repeats, "And we can't wait to meet him."
Yeah.
Very creepy, culty style.
Very creepy.
Thought that was worth pointing out.
I agree. I felt for Shauna. I was just like, that would skeep me out too. I mean, I don't think it's meant in any kind of like malicious way. I know she really feels like Lottie's obsessed with her new baby, and I get that. I also though think that like they're looking for something to give them hope, and new babies bring that.
Yeah.
They bring, well, at least, you hope that they do, if
You
the
hope they
baby
bring
should
hope.
survive.
Oof.
There's hope there, there's innocence, there's new life, birth is, and they've had so much death and darkness that I can understand why they would be drawn to this, but it is definitely a little bit weird. And I think that, Shauna's sitting there going, okay, they're acting like Lottie's trying to act as though this is all of our baby.
Yes. I think that more than anything is what's getting to her, but she doesn't know
Right.
how to verbalize it.
Yeah.
All she can say right now is Lottie's obsessed with my baby. She's obsessed
Yeah.
with my baby. And in the end, she says, like, in her weirdo cult, free group, they are too. But I think that's what you said is accurate.
Yeah.
Lottie
And
wants
she's
it
not
for
a
the group.
mom yet. And so she doesn't really, I don't think she's totally grasping the fact that like it is nice to have a village. And, of course you're this baby's mother, but everybody here is going to help you because you're going to need help.
But this is her guilt baby.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how she feels about it, as he said.
No, that's true.
So I think it would be really uncomfortable to have other people telling you, what it is and
How to
what it's going to
feel.
be. Yep.
Absolutely.
And
And not really
ownership.
asking her. And that's probably a huge part of it too. No one's asking her how she feels. Nobody's asking her, and she doesn't feel like she could probably say some of these things because of what it's turned into. It's like you've turned this pregnancy and this baby into a symbol, and that's not the reality for me. But you don't seem to care about that.
You have Ty, like, how are you feeling this morning? Is baby, kicking you in the bladder again?
True.
Ty's the only one checking in, and that's why Shauna at the end is so angry. She's like, I need you to have my back.
Right. Yeah.
You have to be Team Shauna, not Team Lottie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that, we move to
Callie and Detective Dum Dum.
Yes. Okay, so I'm watching it as the episode progresses, watching him. And I don't know when it was. It might have even been this scene, but I suddenly felt like I was watching the guy who played Porn Stash in Orange is the New Black.
Totally.
And it just reminded me of him. And I happened to go on Reddit and somebody posted a picture of both of them next to each other and said that exact thing. And I was like,
no way.
Oh, I feel seen. This is exactly what I was thinking while I was watching it.
That's a really good comp.
Right?
Yeah.
He's so skeevy.
Yes. Yeah.
And manipulative too. He's clearly manipulating her. And I don't know. Like Callie seems like a smart chick. So the fact that it took her this long to kind of pick up on it is a little strange to me, but
well, you know how I feel about Callie.
Yeah.
Not a biggest fan, but when she decided to check the bill, I wrote, first smart thing Callie's done. And then Googles him.
Yep.
And then lies to him. I wrote second smart thing, third smart thing. Yeah, Callie was on a winning streak.
Yeah, man, she redeemed herself a little bit. I put good move, Callie.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. And I really, really, really hated how how he's playing her. He's playing on her emotions and lying to her. And I don't know, she's a teenager. To sit there and try and, convince this teenager that she can trust you and that you're into her and that you're trying to develop this like meaningful relationship with her, only to get information about her mom and what happened there. Like, that's really, really kind of low. And in my opinion, she's a minor. This just ethically, I think it's wrong.
I've been saying borderline illegal.
Yeah.
This whole time.
Yeah. One time, maybe, but now knowing that he's like basically dating her essentially, that's just,
yeah.
No.
No matter how chastely or,
yeah.
I really think that he's going to be this whole idiotic undercover routine is what's going to be Shauna's get out of free jail card.
Yeah, because it's going to backfire on him. I'm surprised that the partners let it go on this long.
Right, and that's only because of his closeness to Shauna, having grown up with her.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
And knowing what she's been through, and that whole thing. Yeah. But any evidence that they'll gather is going to be tainted somehow
Right.
by this idiot and what he's doing with the
Yeah.
daughter, with the underage daughter.
With the daughter. Like, there's just,
Hitting
dude,
her,
you know,
as
and
you
even,
said.
and, you know, the guy brings it up. He's like, haven't you heard? We don't have a warrant. None of this would be admissible. You can be right all day long, but it's not going to matter.
You know, it makes me think of Walt's line in When They Play Two Truths and a Lie, his version. The only rule is that you win.
Yes.
And I think that's how Detective Dum Dum is moving.
Yeah.
He has to win. He has to be right. He can't be bested by this girl. He's just plowing forward because all he wants is the win.
It's to win. I agree. You're right.
Truth
That's
be
a great
damned or law be
connection.
damned. Yeah. I think that's part of the point of it being in this episode.
So we cross back to, so we get back to the cabin.
And Javi won't talk. And Javi won't talk. He won't.
And Javi still won't talk.
I'm shocked that he spoke at all. I think last week I said he's not going to say a word. I'll bet money on that.
I know, and I would have bet that with you. I was surprised.
Boy, was I wrong. But yeah, for the most part. So you caught the looks he kept giving Lottie, right?
Or that Javi kept giving Lottie?
Yeah, there's one significant look.
No, I don't think I did. Not really.
It looks.
I mean, to some extent, but not like that I wrote it down or noticed it that much.
It looks like he does not want to speak in her presence.
Oh.
But you know, I believe that Javi's. Well, we know he's been hanging around, right?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah. Like, I don't want to say anything right now with her. Yes, I did catch that.
Yeah. I'm sure he saw the Jackie feast, right?
Right.
So he's terrified of these girls.
That's what I was. Yeah.
Terrified of them.
Yeah.
Of all of them.
Yep.
And
I think you're right.
That's why the only one he talks to is Coach Ben. Because Travis was there too, but he won't talk to Travis.
Right. Yeah. He's terrified.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to talk to any of you. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I did think that the ghost joke was funny. Like, maybe he's a ghost now. And I just thought it might have been like a little nod to, you know, Redditor type theories.
I know. They could have said, like, maybe he's in purgatory. Maybe like, why isn't he crossed over yet?
Exactly.
Purgatory.
Yeah. It made me laugh because even we said it last week. So I just thought, all right, you know, tip of the hat, touche.
Yep. Real quick, going back to Van, when we first meet her, I noted she loves Ferris Bueller. There were like a million posters. And when she's standing behind the counter, that big gold mask that's behind her looked very Antler Queen-esque. And it's right next to a poster from Creepshow. Of a creepy looking like skeleton face.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and take another look at that because I didn't see that. Cool.
And big old mask. I thought like little nods to what happened when they were back there. Anyway,
something else I noticed in the cast was that maybe we had some further alignment with animals and characters, like with the mouse.
Oh yeah.
So I just wanted to sort of, I guess, re-mention that maybe prediction that maybe somehow these character alignments might match up with their characters or might inform the masks that their characters end up wearing. I'm probably wrong, but it's just a theory that.
Like a spirit animal thing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like Shauna takes on the rabbit because that was Jackie's animal. So it's like she's representing Jackie, or it's easier to be someone else doing these things.
Or what is it about like these animals that they're like whatever animal they connect with, like why are they connecting with that animal, or what is it? Yeah, like a spirit animal. What is it about that animal that they embody?
What kinship? Well, yeah. I've heard people talking about Misty being an owl. In the pilot, I believe we see that she's wearing, I think, the beaver mask. But I wonder if those aren't interchangeable the way, maybe the antler queen is
Yeah,
interchangeable.
maybe so. Yeah.
They could have their spirit animals and then also have the masks they wear for the eating
Yeah.
ritual or
I
hunting.
put like, I started a list somewhere. I'll have to find it. I thought I found it, but no, I'm not seeing it. But yeah, but I started a list to kind of see if later when, when we start to when it gets clearer, if that will come back up. Okay, so we're in the cabin with everybody. We've got Javi back and he is just remaining mute for the time being. It seems like there's a little bit of tension.
I was noting, I think we commented that it was funny the way the girls were playing audience. Is he a ghost?
Yeah,
was he with other people, the others?
A little nod to all the different theories.
Yep.
And
the girl
got them drawing cards again for chores. So you had mentioned you had something you wanted to bring up regarding that.
Oh, yeah. Just noting that it's looking more and more like the cards are going to play a significant role in the ritual of the cannibalism. The way we think it's headed. So Crystal, I think, gets poop bucket duty again. She's not happy about that.
I wondered if she was getting set up, though.
Right. Somehow if the girls were memorizing the cards.
Exactly.
Crystal's getting the poop end of the stick. I was thinking about the Queen of Hearts, the one with her eyes crossed out, and other queens in the deck. I believe the queens are all missing from the deck of cards, but they keep popping up in flashbacks. Queen of Hearts made me think about how they might play a part in the rituals, and then I thought about the bear heart, the one that Lottie initially put on her altar at the end of season 1, like Queen of Hearts, Bear Heart. If maybe the Queen of Hearts becomes the death card or Antler Queen card, maybe they take turns being the Antler Queen in the ritual. But I wondered if the heart part came from the bear heart.
That's a good point.
Or maybe if you pull that card, you have to be the stag, the one that runs to be chased and caught or not caught.
It probably depends on like what it means with the eyes being crossed out. Is it related to the man with no eyes?
The one with no eyes.
The one with no eyes. Yeah.
Right.
Right. That's questionable too. Also, Queen of Hearts is also a little bit of an allusion to Alice in Wonderland,
of which there are many.
Right.
And that had gone over my head. I wasn't thinking about it at all. And then last week I was reading all of the references.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Lottie with her headband and the dormouse down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yep, falling down the hole. Yep.
The past and present.
So the Queen of Hearts is, in Alice in Wonderland's irrational and
impetuous.
Yes, off with their heads.
Right.
She was very violent and murderous. But yeah, I definitely think that you're right, that the cards are important. I wonder if maybe it'll develop into like different cards represent different roles in the ritual.
You could go wild with this theory on what they're doing in the ritual. And we'll talk about that later in the episode. There's something I want to say about that. But I really felt like as it's kind of the midpoint in the season, this and the next episode that actors have referenced as really difficult or emotionally challenging when they read the script, thinking, ooh, how are we going to film this? I think we're really leading up to looking at the tipping point. Whether that means tipping point into everyone getting on board with the nature of religion, everyone getting on board with Lottie, or if something is going to happen, like maybe Shauna's baby being birthed next week, that will divide the camp solidly. So I feel like there's a lot of lead up and anticipation and laying of
the groundwork for what's going for the second half of the season.
Yeah. For some of the bigger stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It was interesting that last week we saw, and the week before, a lot of Nat arguing with Lottie. And this episode, it's more Shauna. We're seeing different versions of pushback.
Right. Yeah. Which keeps changing my like mind or my opinion on what we're going to see when they begin to divide up into different camps.
Me too.
Yeah. Because I keep like every week it sort of changes a little bit in my head.
Right. Me too. I mean, I was so solid that it was going to be Nat versus Lottie. And now I'm wondering if it might be like Nat versus Shauna.
Right.
But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Misty and Crystal being besties, sharing secrets. Misty's love of Jack Kevorkian. He was so brave.
Yeah, exactly.
LOL, and cute. There's a little coming up also in the episode, a little bit of kind of culty stuff going on with Crystal and Misty. Not directly, but like, I'm going to be really vulnerable with you. And
right.
make you feel like you have to be really vulnerable with me.
Yes.
Some culty techniques that we also see with Misty and Walter.
That's a great point.
Present day.
And if you share your deepest, darkest secret with me, and then then we both do it so that we both have something at stake and have something to lose.
We do it right, like the cannibalism. We do it together. Right. Shared secret, shared shame, shared guilt.
Right.
Mutually assured destruction.
I haven't heard that before. That's good though.
So that was what I wanted to say about that scene. Other than Javi giving the pointed look to Lottie, and what does that mean? And I've got some thoughts, and I'm sure you have thoughts, and we'll talk about it later.
Indeed. Next, we go back to the truck, and this is when Callie decides she is going to tell
Detective Dum Dum.
Yes, Detective Dum Dum. Thank you. About her mom having an affair with Randy. She decides in the moment that this might be a solid idea.
Randy misdirect.
Yeah. So that was interesting. I thought it was clever.
I wrote second smart thing that Callie's done on the show. It could have been so much worse.
Yeah. And she was doing it in the moment and had to be really freaked out too.
Yeah. Off the cuff.
Yeah. So, I was definitely impressed that she kind of came up with that so quickly under the circumstances. Because you have to think about it too. I mean, I'm sure she was hurt. She really thought that this guy was into her and she was trusting him, and then was revealed that he was using her. So I'm sure she was upset about that. So go Callie. Yeah. Good job.
Good job, Callie. Be more like your mama.
Yes.
And then Misty and Walt playing Two Truths and a Lie. We see Misty responding negatively to that song, Staying Alive.
Oh, that's true. Very
like, turn it off.
So I don't want to listen to this.
What I noted was Walt seeming kind of desperate to please her. Reminds me of how we saw Misty on dates in season 1. And currently with her old friends, trying to keep them happy, present, interested in time with her. We saw it with Shauna and the lawyer cookie and the Hawaii 5-0 punch. And like, stay. I'm going to keep you entertained. I'm getting the same energy from Walt. Like, oh, you don't want the radio? Well, how about show tunes? I know you love show tunes.
Yeah. Just like trying to, win her over somehow.
Yeah. And wanting to keep her engaged and wanting to keep her wanting to spend time with him, or wanting to feel like she wants to be there.
So do you think that he is up to like some kind of investigation because he wants to prove his theory and then take her in, get her? Or do you think that he likes that and that he's kind of wanting to have something more with her because of some interest in how, she's complex and might be a serial killer?
I have a theory about that I feel very strongly about. I'm going to reveal this theory when we get to the later scene with them. But I think it's a good one. But I noted, he says there's only one rule: ever win.
Yes.
Which is sus. Because it seems like Walt knows, he had a lot of knowledge beforehand. Yeah. Like, I happened to look up this B&B, and it happens to be a Tuesday. Oh, how lucky are we? And I wondered, did Walt know where the cult was? Did he intentionally drive right by it? Because Misty was like, hey, stop, wait.
Yeah, she sees it.
That sign.
Yeah.
I wondered if Walt knew exactly where the cult was.
Now, that said, I was looking, I was reading some stuff on Reddit, and somebody said something that I think has some merit. These types of shows, we're always looking for theories. They said if you look at the history so far of characters like this, like even Adam, for example, everybody's kind of wanting to jump to these sort of, this person has this motive, or this is wilderness baby, or this is,
Right.
And that a lot of times it just ends up being they were who they were, and then they're gone because, they're killed off or something happens. And so that it is just possible that Walt is just Walt. or Walter. It's just Walter. I keep wanting to call him Walt all the time. I think it's a lost thing.
Yeah, I know.
But I don't know, because there are moments like when he drove past the cult. I don't know. He did seem kind of surprised. I mean, he could just be a good actor. It does seem like he knows too much, but Misty is also someone who knows too much a lot of times.
We learned that Misty does not care for monkeys. No. And is a moon landing conspiracist.
Yes.
Mark, you're asking the wrong questions.
What questions should we be asking, Misty?
Right.
It piqued my interest. I wanted to talk about that.
Well, I also thought, is she a flat earther too? What?
Yeah.
What comes next?
So then we go back to
Ty and Van.
Ty and Van. She's digitizing stuff for people, and Ty is trying to keep things light and bantery.
And she says, "How bad is it?"
Yeah.
It's happening again, isn't it? How bad is it?
And she knows.
She knows.
Yeah.
The nudie pen, we get the call back that you were right about.
I was right. I had a feeling it had something to do with Van.
Yeah, they pulled a little prank at Shauna's wedding.
Yes. Yeah. Which of course makes us interested in Shauna's wedding. I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, so everybody saw each other at Shauna's wedding. When was that?
So they got married 5 years after the return.
Okay.
She was probably either pregnant at the time or they got pregnant right away.
Yeah. And 5 years, I mean, she was still pretty young.
Yeah.
I wonder, like 23 or so.
Yeah, I would have thought they would have gotten married right away. You know, Jackie's gone out of the way. What else are you doing, Shauna? Not much.
And so we jump to the kitchen conversation where Callie goes and tells her parents that the cops know and they're following, and she deflected them by saying that she was having an affair with Randy, which poor Jeff is so appalled at, but it actually is pretty smart.
my best friend.
Yeah. And Randy's kind of a dum-dum too. So I love how Shauna's like, it's a pretty good idea.
We can work with it. We can work with this.
Yeah.
Poor Jeff.
I know. I was thinking that too. I was like, poor Jeff. Good God. This man is just.
Go with it.
Yeah.
Just go, support, stay out of the way. So outmatched by Shauna and now Callie.
Yeah.
Can't catch up. He'll never win.
No, I feel for him. Yeah. I'm like, dude.
And Callie, I mean, so desperate for Shauna's approval as a criminal. Did I do good crime?
Right. Did I do good? Yeah, that was.
I fixed it, right? Was that a good lie?
Yeah, it makes sense, but it's also a little sad. But it did kind of cement for me, especially now seeing her deflect, that like, okay, she's not trying to pull one over on them and turn them in. She just wanted to be included in the discussion and wanted to know the truth, and
desperately.
Yeah.
Well, it's her family.
Yeah.
You know, there's a murder and someone might go down for it. Yeah, poor Callie. I'm coming around a little bit on her.
We head back to the camp, and that's where we see the signs that I mentioned yesterday. I just saw it. It's actually the sharing shack, which I just love. The sharing shack.
The sharing shack.
The sharing shack is one way and the meditation space is the other way. But we're at the sharing shack.
Not trying to be alone and sneak into Lottie's quarters. Right. The two come up, and I just wrote a little too friendly / needy, which is this isn't what it is, but it's like, the love bombing. Like, you're so awesome.
Yeah.
We come walk with us. Come, we want to sit with you. But in earlier episodes, you hear Lottie saying things like, they can't wait to meet you. They want to know more about you. Not,
Why do you think that that's just like a device to pull somebody in, or do you think that she has actually shared information about her that would make them want to meet her?
I really think it's just Lottie fucking with Nat.
Okay, yeah, I think so too.
It just made me think about cults in general.
Yeah. Right.
Which
is a good, and we're thinking about that kind of attitude in general, and it crosses into the next scene, which is Ty and Akiva talking about her participation in the prayer circle outside.
Yeah, it hits on this theme this sentiment that we've heard over and over again of, if it works, what does it matter what it is? If it's woo-woo bullshit, if it's, tree cult, listening to the pine needle, if it works for you, we'll let it do it. Akila talking about the pre-game ritual that she had with her friend, it just felt good. Like we could pretend it made a difference. Like
Yeah.
we could pretend it made a difference. Like we would play better or maybe they would play worse. It's not like we really believed that, but we still did it before every game.
Right.
I,
So what are your, like, do you think that that is...
It can be a dangerous road.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's nothing wrong with being open.
Right.
And there is nothing wrong with being open. But I think that you can easily find yourself in a situation where you start to need something, or maybe you're compromising your beliefs because
Mm-hmm.
the sense of control becomes more important than rational thought.
Yeah.
And that may
Well,
be
and
what we start to see with what's leading to the things that the women don't want to talk about their 19 months in the wilderness. How did a woo-woo tree circle turn into possibly actively hunting people for food?
right.
Like a real belief that if we do this or if we don't do this, it could be life or death.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the food. I'm talking about like pleasing or angering nature god.
Exactly. Yeah. And why does it have to necessarily be a sacrifice of a human being?
Or at all.
Or at all? Exactly. Like,
you know,
why is the pray? Why would it not be enough to sit there and pray and to honor nature god? Why does it have to be, some kind of blood sacrifice of some kind?
Why isn't listening enough?
Yeah, exactly.
I hear the trees, I hear my breath, I hear the
Right.
wind. Why do I have to then give the wind my blood?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. In other religions, sacrifices, it was part of it. You sacrificed animals, sacrificial lamb.
Right.
And that's a really good point. I think because the more you give, the more you get. The more you give, the more you're demonstrating your fealty or your devotion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving this precious thing of mine.
Right.
Because, my love for you is so great. My devotion to you is so big that
I get that. Okay.
I give a big part of myself and I get a big part back. What do you think?
Well, yeah, no, I think that all makes sense. I think in context of like outside of the woo-woo stuff and whether or not it's true, you're also potentially dealing with someone who is not entirely stable. And maybe even one of the things I was thinking watching this episode is it's not just one person. Lottie's got issues, but so does Ty and Misty and Shauna. And there's a lot of stuff going on here. So how can you trust them to be like, okay, this is what needs to be done, or else if you start to get to a point where you're trusting them too much that it's blind, your trust is blind, and then you start sacrificing people, how do you know that this is not something that this person is just making up in their brain and not, like, how do you know that it's legit? And they also seem to blame Lottie, or at least Nat does.
Yeah, you started this.
Yeah.
Or, this is because of something that you did. It can't happen again, and I'm not going to let it happen again. I think that's you see
Travis get really upset with Nat and saying that like, oh, if we had continued looking and you hadn't faked the bloody shirt, then maybe we could have found him sooner.
This is on you. The reason Hobby is so fucked up, this is on you.
Which is so...
Yeah, Nat was making, well, we're jumping ahead, but Nat was making a rational call.
Exactly.
If we don't stop, Travis could die too.
Yeah. So that's my point is like, where is the line between rational thought and, okay, now there's a lot of crazy happening here because of one reason or another. And how do we, with everything maybe still intact, our rational mind still intact, how do we combat the ones that are starting to lose it? Is it our job to even try and combat that? Which I think then speaks to the fact of like, maybe it's not. And that is why there's a division.
So the idea of if it works, why not go with it versus at what cost?
If you guys want to do this and you believe that this works, then you go ahead and do it. But I don't want to be involved in it. So I'm going to stay over here and do this. Live and let live type of a situation. But then if they're sacrificing people and you're on that other team, when do you begin to feel some kind of a responsibility for what's happening to those that are being sheep and being easily led to the slaughter? And I think that's what Nat feels is this sort of sense of like everybody here, they're like sheep being led to the slaughter at Lottie's cult camp.
Yeah, with Lisa and
well, just like with sometimes trying stuff out. So it's hard to know if she actually is like trying it because she's sincerely going, okay, you know, whatever, maybe this will work. Or is she just still infiltrating so that she can expose whatever's going on?
Well, I mean, I think we get our answer later, but I think she's writing that line of this is okay. This doesn't hurt. Let Lisa do this. If it works for her, great. But then I'm not going to let it get to the point where I know it could go based on past experience of where I'm afraid it might go.
Right, exactly.
I mean, we jumped right into Travis.
Yeah, because that came next.
Okay,
playing.
perfect.
So that came next, and then after that, they're
the mirror exercise.
Right, they're doing the mirror exercise. Yeah,
yeah.
And then at that point, she gets called out to go and see who is visiting her.
Well, what I liked was Lottie prodding Nat a little bit, poking her a little bit. You know, Lisa's saying you're projecting your own negative thoughts onto me. Giving a voice to our darkest thoughts is how we gain access to our deepest truths.
Yes.
And then Lottie pops up and says, and it works. You can go deeper, Natalie. I know you can. And then Nat clocks the cloth around Lottie's palm and, well, what happened? Like, I know what you've been doing.
I know what you've been doing. Exactly.
You've been doing some bloodletting.
I did think it's interesting the way Lisa was like, she said, giving voice to our darkest thoughts is how we gain access to our deeper truths. It's what we do, like what we do, like what the cult does, like what they do as members, what they're doing for her. But yeah, and I still think, even though at the end she calls her out, I still feel like there's a part of Nat that wants to believe that maybe there's something to believe in.
Well, considering we're seeing Nat right on the heels of a legit suicide attempt,
right,
having hit rock bottom, it would make sense that as the girls were back then, desperate for anything to cling to.
Yeah.
For hope, survival, direction, Natalie's open to it.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's where she is. She's just in a really vulnerable place. And that's when, unfortunately, you're most susceptible.
And she's confused too.
Yeah.
And I think she wants to use Lottie for some things. And then in other ways, she
feels a loyalty to her or a kinship.
Maybe. Or maybe she's trying to understand Travis through Lottie because she knows that like Travis felt connected to her. Travis believed in it. And so maybe if she can figure out what's going on with Lottie and how Lottie got him, you know, in her mind, like he killed himself. So
yeah,
maybe that's what she's trying to understand as well. And what Lottie eventually says is, I'm trying to understand it too. And so it's almost like they're using each other for the same reason.
That's so good, Alicia. That makes so much sense.
Like it just sort of dawned on me because I'm like, what is the deal with them? And I think that's what it is. It's that both of them are seeking answers for what went on with Travis. They're just thinking that the other one is going to be able to help them to find those answers.
Yeah, I think
because of his connection with each of them.
Right. They're both kind of desperate. They're both frightened. They're both feeling vulnerable. They don't know what's going on. Something's going on. Something is pulling them after 25 years.
Right.
Travis just died. He was closest, it seems, to those two. So it would make sense they would seek each other out for answers, whether directly or indirectly.
Exactly.
I mean, Lottie grabbed Nat, but then Nat chose to stay.
Right, exactly.
Kidnapped me, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're very smart.
Well, thank you.
Because then we get Ty and Van.
Well, yeah, you're right. They talk about she's kind of explained.
Right. It was a short scene, but what I clocked was the way that Ty is so immediately open and honest with Van.
True.
And, you know, from earlier, but then also in the scene, you know, just like telling her what's going on. And the contrast to Simone.
Yeah.
You know, Simone made her feel unsafe and with Van, she's got that safety.
Yeah.
I noted that Van seemed to be aware of Sammy.
Yeah. Yep.
And how old is Sammy? Like 6? 7?
Oh, I don't know, 6 maybe. Yeah.
No idea. bad with kid ages, but just wondering when was the last time they talked. It seems like Van was aware of Simone too, and
well, but Ty has been somewhat of a public figure.
but Van, does she watch TV?
I mean,
they're in different states.
Yeah, she might keep tabs enough to know.
Yeah.
Know about her, or maybe, but you're right, there did seem to be sort of a knowing there that was a little more personal than just like, oh, I heard about your wife and kid.
Yeah.
So which kind of is a weird juxtaposition, because she's also like, it's been forever, but it can't have been forever if she's familiar with her family. So yeah, I don't know, that's a little confusing, but
it seemed like they hadn't seen each other in a long time, but they maybe exchanging Christmas cards, or I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, the big scene. Misty and Crystal emptying the poop bucket, as besties do.
It really kind of annoyed. I know this is weird, like a weird pet peeve, but some of the things that annoy me are when, like, I'm watching something that takes place in a different time period, but they use slang from like current times.
Anachronisms.
Yes. And this show does that a lot, and it annoys me. Like, you wouldn't have said bestie back then. You would probably have said BFF.
There was another one, obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There were, There was, there was one other one that I wrote too. Oh, let's see, where is it? Oh, I don't know. Happy Wife, Happy Life seems to feel like one that's a little more current.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, so sometimes that bugs me, but what do you
Can you imagine, though, trying to write a script and not letting any anachronism slip in?
Yeah, especially if you've got writers that are younger, that weren't sort of coming of age during that time, and you've got actors playing those roles that weren't coming of age during that time. And so there's nobody checking it going like, oh, wait a minute, you wouldn't have said that. You probably would have said this.
Well, that's when they hire someone like us to go over the script, give a pass.
Yes, because I'll write it down in my notes. I'm like, no, we would have said this. I was a little bit younger than them, but not by that much. But yes, okay, so they're besties, BFFs, helping with the poop bucket.
What, rapid fire
secret sharing?
Let's play rapid fire secrets. Yeah. Crystal says, do you know how lucky we are? Some people never find someone they trust enough to share their deepest secrets.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that
and this is also sort of on the heels of, them talking about the darkest thoughts, and that's how we gain access to our deepest truths.
Right. And on the heels of Van and Ty talking about Ty's deepest, darkest secret.
Right. So sadly, you see this kind of relationship, a bond of trust that the others have with someone else. And then sadly, Misty doesn't receive that here.
No.
At the same time, I don't blame Crystal. That's pretty, that was such an unforgivable thing.
It was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You're the reason we're out here?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
And, when she calls her a psychopath,
you're a psycho.
It's not maybe far off. Wow. I don't know that she's a psychopath, but there's certainly sociopathic tendencies.
You're the one that ate your twin.
Right. And I think maybe that's why Misty too thought that, because like Misty thought she understands me. She gets me, her.
She must be a sociopath too.
She seems to have like dark thoughts or dark sort of parts of her like I do.
No, this girl seemed dark.
Yeah.
Alicia, not in the fun way that you are. No.
Like that girl was creepy. So in some ways that reaction was a little strange.
Yeah. However, just selfishly, I think any sociopath would be like, wait a minute, what?
Are you kidding? Yeah.
That's unforgivable. That's not a fun secret.
And when she told Misty that she wasn't that good of an actress.
Yeah. Well, that one was low. That hurt.
That was mean, and also not true, because she did a great job with that monologue.
Yeah, if you tell, I will fucking kill you. I mean, Misty leans into the psycho. I'm a
She
psycho.
really
Okay,
does.
I'll kill you.
Do you think that she like fully meant that, or do you think she was just trying to scare her so she wouldn't tell anybody?
With Misty, who knows? She's
Yeah,
so good at doing oh, you start to really buy into all the fun that Misty is
yeah,
as a viewer, and then she'll turn around and Jessica Roberts someone.
yeah,
And it's this, bracing cold water that, wait a minute, yeah, this is what
yeah.
Misty's capable of.
Before I thought she was going to kill her immediately. Like, I didn't think she was going to
Oh,
threaten to do it. I was like, oh shit, she's going to push her off this cliff right now. She's going to do it.
yeah. I mean, she didn't technically kill her,
No,
right?
no,
An accident.
exactly.
Oh, I thought it was a legit accident. Like, no,
Oh, definitely. It was. Yeah.
no planning, not even in the
Yeah.
moment.
But
And
I think, it begs the question of how many people have died because of Misty.
a lot.
Yeah,
I
a
think a
lot.
lot
And,
have.
you may not be a direct murderer, but you seem to cause a lot of deaths. So, yeah, bare minimum sociopath because you care just about yourself and what people think of you.
I mean, Missy is so smart. What is she doing working in that nursing home?
Exactly.
It's got to be for other
She
reasons.
likes feeling in control. She likes feeling like she has the power because she's like somebody who didn't ever feel that way.
Well, doctors can do that. I mean,
Yeah.
doctors have power. Oh, that was
Yeah.
what I was going to say earlier was that
But it's probably easier for her to maneuver around like this as opposed to if she was a doctor and had a doctor's license, and
yeah.
it might be harder for her to fly under the radar.
What did you just say about wanting to feel powerful, to be seen? It's in another scene. Okay. But yeah, but do you think Misty gets off enough on making old people sweat for their pain meds or, torturing poor elderly people in a
I don't
home?
know, just because I don't think we've seen enough of her life before this for me to necessarily know. But
She seems to desperately want connection. This is what I kept trying to say earlier. When Misty's telling Crystal her deepest, darkest secret, she explains it with people were listening to me. I felt
right.
important. People wanted to hear what I had to say. They wanted me around, basically.
Yeah.
It felt good to be needed,
Yeah. And she
seen,
didn't
heard.
feel like that.
Right. Misty had never felt liked, listened
Mhm.
to, or needed for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also noticed that, like, and she's done this for a while, but it just really stuck out here to me where she talks to herself or she refers to herself by her
Oh,
name
right.
sometimes.
Babies cry, Misty.
Yeah, exactly. Babies cry Misty. And so it kind of brings me back to the fact that they all sort of have, even though Ty is the one with the very definitive split and in her personality, I
Yeah.
do think that all of them have that part of them, that duality
Do you think
of,
that comes from being out in the wilderness with not a lot of people to talk to and nothing to
yeah,
do?
or the duality of light and dark,
Right.
which is also echoed in nature, like we see
Yeah.
in this episode, so
As you
you've got
mentioned in the beginning, the
right.
majesty and the danger, the
Yeah,
ruthlessness.
right. Like the
It-
beauty and the light is there, but we also all have a dark side as well that can come out given the proper
Conditions.
circumstances.
Yeah.
So I just thought that, yeah, I thought that this scene also kind of, and just Misty in general, and all of them kind of echo that throughout the episode.
Well, and where else it's echoed is in the cult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We have to access our
Mm-hmm.
deepest truths. We have to, go into the dark parts to reach the light.
And, it also can go back to the title too, Two Truths and a Lie, even just in like the truths that they're telling themselves versus the lies that they might be telling themselves. And then even into, I talked earlier about how the show is really also about female friendships and the beauty and bond and also tragedy of having close female friends, particularly during that time in your life. where you can feel super close to somebody one moment, and just feel like you're inseparable, and then something happens and they turn on you, and suddenly that best friend is now, saying things to you that are horribly hurtful.
Yeah.
Because they know all of those inner insecurities and secrets. And then that thing that was so beautiful turns dark and kind of ugly.
Right.
In a way that you see, I think, more in female friendships than male friendships.
Oh, absolutely. Because women tend to go deeper.
Right.
I mean, that's a, big stereotype, sweeping stereotype.
Yeah.
But,
and probably share a lot more of their deepest secrets than boys do with each other.
My friend Dawn and I, we used to categorize people as like girl boys or boy boys or girl girls, I'm a girl. My friend Dawn is not very emotional, doesn't like to like get deep, and I call her a boy girl.
Yep. Yeah. I have a friend like that. And also my mom's kind of like that too. Her mom passed away when she was 2. So she was raised by her dad. Goodness. And so she doesn't have some of the sentimental, like it's there, but it's not like you might see in a more of a girly girl, maybe.
Well, we talked about the transitions between the scenes into this next scene with Misty and Walt, when Misty's trying to process being told to kick rocks by Nat in present day.
Right.
Walt says something interesting. I'm getting the feeling you're sad. And I noted psychopathy, psychopaths don't feel emotions like we do, especially not remorse or guilt, but they learn to kind of mirror
emotions. Exactly. Yeah. Or she's very focused on like having missed something.
What did I miss? Right.
What did I miss? Yeah.
Was it Lottie being jealous of my best friendship with Nat? What did she say? Maybe Lottie was jealous of me and Nat. You can't buy that kind of friendship, but you can kidnap it.
For whatever reason, that line didn't stick in my head. I'm glad you mentioned that again, because that is pretty funny.
So good. But Walt then calls Misty out as a psychopath.
Yeah.
You've got the hallmarks. What does he call? He says, your friendships are a little more complicated than most.
Yeah.
Kidnapping, cult death, Adam Martin. And then he reveals that he looked up the story that Misty had given him about being friends with Adam's mom. Sorry to say you slipped up, Misty. She's been dead for 2 years or something like that. And then he notes, so I laid it all out and I deduced that you probably killed him, maybe to help a friend. And Misty says, do you think I'm capable of murder? And he says, sure. Impulsive, traits of most serial killers, only you pull it off.
Yeah.
And then notes his grandmother he doesn't come out and say that she killed his grandpa Joe, but she was convicted of it.
Yeah.
Sent him a birthday card every year.
Yeah.
So that was nice of her.
She seems pretty like appalled by this theory.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess, look, the villain or a villain or somebody who does bad things doesn't necessarily see themselves that way. But I do still think that a lot of it has to do with her liking to be in control. That's why she's also so upset that she missed something.
Exactly.
Because she prides herself in not missing anything.
No.
And the way that she runs her life and organizes things helps her to feel more in control of stuff. And she was like that to begin with, but I'm sure post plane crash and coming home, it probably was magnified even more because she was so out of control. They were all out of control in terms of what happened to them.
Yeah. I posited earlier that in, I think, last episode, that I didn't think that Misty had a lot of trauma around what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. I think, she didn't come out unscathed.
No, none of them did or could.
No.
Yeah.
Well, so here's my theory about Walt.
Mm-hmm.
I think Walt, as you suggested earlier, I think he very well may be what he appears to be on the surface. I think that he is another psychopath or sociopath.
Yeah.
Another serial killer, and it just happens to like Misty and thinks, I see you. Think back to the earlier line. Do you know how lucky it is to find someone to share secrets with?
Oh yeah, that's true too. That's like a little
wondering
parallel in the present. And maybe why she doesn't trust him, because when she did open up and share about like her deepest thing, that was horrible, she got rejected. And so she's worried that if she shares with him that he'll reject her like Crystal did.
Even though he's putting it all out there. Look, I know who you are. I see you. I hear you. I respect you. I like it. He says, I like you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and maybe we could have something.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that's why she was reacting that way, but that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, the way he's describing Misty, the hallmarks, that could be describe him. So, yeah, I think he thought.
And I mean, she's also defensive too because she feels guilty.
Well, and she just got rejected by her bestie.
Yeah. But she feels guilty too about the people. I think maybe there is a small amount of guilt.
You think?
Maybe. I don't know. Because she actually liked Crystal.
She seemed guilty at her body. Like, oh, Crystal.
Yeah. She cried and I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I think that's who's on the stake in the previews.
I think I wrote that down. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes the most sense. They go out and they find her and they carry her back that way.
Retrieve the body. Yep. Yeah. Don't want to waste good meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope that Misty finds her way back to Walt, because he drove off pretty quickly.
He did. I just noticed that. He drove off really quickly. And I wondered why. I'm like, why did he drive off so fast? Yeah. Embarrassed.
Hurt people drive fast. Hurt people drive away quickly.
Tip of the hat. That was nice. But I know he's still in more episodes, so he'll be back.
Oh, good. Okay.
I think we get Randy and Shauna in the hotel room.
I wrote the Randy ruse.
Shauna, it was so weird that he kept turning the light off and on. Like, what the heck was that about?
What kind of kink is that?
Like maybe I can jerk off in the dark. Oh, this isn't working. Let me flip the light on.
No, that's not working either.
That's not working either. Like,
don't think about it.
We're in present day. Where's your phone, dude? Like, pull up some porn.
Rude. We have Lottie whispering to Shauna's baby.
Yes.
You're going to change everything.
Not happy. Understandably so.
What the fuck, Lottie?
Yeah.
So Lottie was whispering other things. What do you think she was saying?
I don't know. I mean, it probably had something to do with nature and what they're going to do, when they welcome him, or I don't know. I doubt it was anything negative. So
we hate you.
No, can't wait to meet you, or I can't wait to meet you. It could have even been something that was just a little personal and creepy in that way.
Well, I mean, I think it was definitely creepy.
Yeah.
Doing it while she was asleep.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely crossing boundaries for sure.
Yeah. The ownership that Lottie seems to feel over this baby has crossed the line.
Yeah.
But Shauna she keeps saying, like, I'm freaked out. I'm really afraid of giving birth out in the middle of nowhere. But we don't see any, like, cradling of the belly or talking to the baby or...
No, not at all. You're right. She really hasn't talked much about it even. Well, and this goes back to you and I thinking that maybe the baby won't survive, but she hasn't really talked much about it kicking or anything either, right?
No.
Yeah.
You'd think there would be a lot more.
I know she's freaked out, but there's very little bonding of her with her belly.
None.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
None that I've seen.
Since she's a teenager who hasn't been pregnant before, perhaps she doesn't really know that, like, maybe, I don't know, she is getting bigger, so that would imply that the baby is growing. But I don't know. It just seems she's had a prop belly for a while. Like, there's no connection to it. No. And perhaps that's also why Lottie was talking to it. Oh, because she's lonely. Like, Shauna isn't connecting with this baby, and somebody should.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, that could be also a lot of the reason why she is doing it.
I was looking at photos that someone on Reddit had posted, like 8 or 10 photo stills, screenshots from the trailer or the teaser. And there are 2 shots where it's Lottie and Misty. And we know that Misty is like the resident doctor, right? Because she took babysitting CPR classes. Lottie's hands are bloody and Misty's looking distraught and Lottie's talking to her. And I just keep thinking it's going to be this horrific, or not horrific, but like really sad experience where they can't save it. It comes out stillborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Misty's panicking and feeling terrible or whatever.
Right.
Whatever she feels. And then Lottie accepting it and quickly kind of morphing it into something bigger. Like, this is what nature wanted, or this is what was meant to be, or we have to do this now. Because we also see the characters, or the characters, it looks like they're all cutting their palms and dripping blood onto maybe the blanket. Maybe there's something wrong with the baby and they're trying to protect it.
True. Yeah, I don't think that, I don't know. There's been so little said about the baby in the future that it just seems unlikely to me that it's still alive.
I agree.
But at the same time, I know they
don't eat it.
Right. So
but I'm wondering if see Shauna kind of lashing out at Lottie, similar to the way we see Travis lashing out at Nat. You know, it's irrational lashing out for a loss. Because we've talked about Shauna as this tricky character, and Lottie's the one saying, you know, like Lottie started it, but then Shauna took it and flipped it and turned it perverse.
Maybe. I don't know. I could see that potentially happening more with Ty than I could Shauna.
Really?
Because even thinking about the fact that like Ty is the one that had the sort of sacrifice in her home and killed the family dog, like that's a little darker in my opinion in terms of like taking something that was meant to be.
What about the rabbit?
Yeah, but that was not ritualistic. That was like, I killed this rabbit because it was eating my plants and now I'm going to cook it so it didn't die in vain. So to me, there's more logic in that than what Ty did.
True. I don't know. I'm feeling like we're going to see a big switch in Shauna, because she's also been isolated from the group.
Yeah.
You know, it's been her and her family dealing with this whole Adam Detective Dum-Dum thing.
Right. I'm wondering what brings her, like what pulls her enough to, you know, the cult, to, like what makes her, go there.
I mean, my theory for a while has been that Detective Dum-Dum, because of what he's been doing, that Callie's going to come back and be like, we see them all at the police station in the next episode.
Right. Yeah.
I could see Callie totally turning what he tried to do into something that could get him in trouble. Like, oh, this is my boyfriend. We've been dating. And don't you remember like that night in the car and that seat?
Yeah. And just like screwing him over.
Yeah. I hear the text. I've got the receipt.
Yeah. That's smart. That would be smart.
You know, now drop the case. Don't talk to my mom ever again.
Yeah, that would be smart.
I could see her going dark, and he would deserve it.
Right. Oh, 100%.
I hate that 100%. Guy so much.
Yeah. So we go back to Van and Ty, and Van just does a real good job calling Ty on her ship, and she's like, at least have the decency to act to my help. Ask for my help. Ty did find some oxycodone in the cabinet.
Ty takes the shower and then just goes right in the medicine cabinet. Do you think she was looking like, I know Van has a problem or has had a problem in adult life?
I don't. I think she was just being nosy, trying. I couldn't decide if it was a problem. I don't think it was a problem that Ty already knew about.
But why react so strong? Like, if I found oxy in someone's medicine cabinet, I would assume they had a, you know,
an injury or surgery or something. Yeah,
surgery or something. It was left.
Yeah, me too. That's why I thought her reaction was way over the top as well. But what she said, this is strong stuff, doesn't indicate to me that she knows she has a problem. Because if she knew she had a problem, she'd be like, Van, you're back on this again, or you're still doing this.
But then why be so confrontational about it?
Well, I mean,
like, what is this?
It could be a writing thing because they don't, I don't know. I mean, they were trying to find a way to introduce that as Van's problem. And I think maybe it was just a little clunky.
It seemed a little preachy.
Yeah.
Opioid crisis. What is this?
Exactly. Opioid crisis. So we're going to talk about it. But at the same time, we're going to use a character who probably had dealt with some significant physical pain.
That's a good point.
You know, so
she went through it.
Yeah.
That tabletop surgery of her face.
No. Awful.
The way she healed so quickly back then, Van.
That was, that was one of the things in the first season that I was like, really?
Do you think that was magical healing, like island healing?
I don't know, because we haven't seen that happen to anybody else.
I'm trying to think. I mean,
I just feel like it was convenient for the show, especially when, you mentioned that she was supposed to die early twice.
Coach Ben got his leg chopped off.
Exactly. And he's still hobbling around on crutches.
Didn't get an infection.
But no infection there. You are right about that. That's true.
Should have gotten blood poisoning, something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So maybe so. I mean, sterile environment.
Yeah, maybe we'll learn more about how
the minerals in the iron leads to faster healing.
Something, yeah.
Iron is a coagulant or anticoagulant, isn't it?
I don't know.
Iron causes blood to bleed faster. I'm a smart one here. Detective Dum Dum. How dare I?
Okay, so Nat finally gets into the cabinet. Oh, I did want to say that it was nice to see Ty finally let her guard down and break down a bit, because
she's been so guarded with Ty.
Oh yeah, so guarded in general. So for Ty to finally just kind of let it down and cry it out for a bit, I thought it was much needed.
Well, they're both really guarded.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and then Detective Dum Dum finds the strawberry lotion in the condom, and then
so after Ty broke down, we've got Nat finally getting into Lottie's cabin, and she gets into the cabinet and starts to go looking for stuff. Finally,
the gun.
She finds the gun, and she finds some cell phones, and she finds personal information on other people that are there, and banking information, and assumes that they are all getting scanned.
I thought it all seemed very staged.
Oh, that's interesting.
Lottie wanted her to find it.
Yeah.
And, confront her. I think Lottie set that up to go down exactly the way it did.
You know what? I didn't even think about that, but you're probably right.
There's no way she would have let Nat keep those keys.
Yeah.
And the way, Nat was not being the sneakiest or the most covert in her attempts to get in there. She was always standing around outside.
You're absolutely right. I didn't even think about that, but that seems to make a lot of sense.
The gun being like the push to make her vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then, bank statements and money being turned over and the most obvious stuff.
Yeah. And she just set it up that way, definitely.
I think so. Yeah. Because that seems like a Lottie operation. Like, I'm going to make you vulnerable, then I'm going to swoop in and be your savior.
What you're looking for is in your head.
It's not out here.
Yeah.
It's in here.
And Lottie very much wants to know what the note means. And Nat's like, well, you started it. And she's like, that may be true, but I still want to know for sure. So Nat was right. They want to figure out what was Nat right about. And eventually we learn what that is. The technique that she used for helping her remember, is that one that you're familiar with at all?
Well, it's similar to EMDR.
Okay.
Which uses the flashing lights, or you can do like bilateral tapping. I've done it, and I've had it done to me. When I've gone through it, it was really interesting. The person used a light bar, so lights moving from one side to another. Initially, when they were doing EMDR, they would move like two fingers and kind of like you're waving, and then have the person track the fingers with their eyes. And then clinicians started getting carpal tunnel syndrome. So they developed the light bars.
That's funny.
But the idea is that you're triggering the something about the hippocampus, like the something center of the hippocampus.
Okay.
The hippocampus, that area is where we store memory, or where memory gets transitioned from short into long-term memory. It's where traumatic memory can get stuck. and there's a connection between the occipital lobe and the frontal lobe and the hippocampus. Anyway, but my experience of EMDR, which this is not, but it's similar. My experience was that memories that had trauma attached to them or unpleasant emotions attached, it was like I was watching a movie. They're just kind of playing through in front of me. And it's a very interesting process to go through.
Yeah, that is interesting. It sounds it.
Obviously hard to describe, but
yeah,
it's a way of like plucking both. I'm getting this wrong. It's a way of plucking the memory sans the like without the emotion, so you can process
okay,
it,
I got you.
kind of move it through and put it away properly.
Kind of isolate it. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And it looked like Nat was going through a similar thing, like going back to this moment where there were significant attachments to the body with the memory.
Right. And what she was feeling physically.
Yeah. And I'm, someone can listen to this who knows more and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But you're butchering the hell of this. But it looked like some sort of like hypnotic technique that uses a similar process. Anyway, yeah. Because Nat, we see her kind of like she's in a movie, like moving through the memory and watching what happened.
I thought it was so like sad and sweet when she put her head in her lap and you saw that it was young Nat.
Perfect. That was so perfect.
Yeah, it really was.
It made me flash back to when Shauna kills Adam. It's young Shauna doing it, holding the knife.
No, that's right. Yep.
I thought that was a nice callback and a nice use of that technique.
Oh, that's great. I didn't remember that, but you're right. You're absolutely right.
She was so vulnerable and back in that time.
Wow.
And then putting her head in Lottie's lap.
Oh.
I wrote down what Nat said in the end.
What did she say?
She says, I see the crash site, but it's different. I see us. We didn't make it. None of us. We weren't alone out there. I thought I felt it. We brought it back. And then when she's being revived by the Narcan, she says, Trav, we brought it back with us. And that's the memory.
Right. That leads to him saying Nat was right.
Nat was right. We brought it back with us.
Exactly.
Nat wakes up from whatever state she was in, whatever altered state. Nat wakes up. The whole time there's some darkness out there with us or in us. It's still that's what I was right about. And then that's when Nat morphs into young Nat.
Yeah.
And that's when Lottie sees the antler queen shadow as hers.
The antler shadow.
Looking terrified.
So how did you interpret that? Did you interpret that as it was implying that Lottie was indeed the antler queen and she was seeing it on herself? Or did you interpret that as the entity, the darkness that they brought back with them that was attached to them?
Both. I thought it was Lottie's guilt at what she started.
Okay.
Look what I did. Look what I started with my dumb tree cult antler queen nature antics.
Right.
And look what it turned into.
Okay. Yeah.
What did you think?
I didn't know what to think. I kind of went back and forth on what I thought, but your answer covers both. So I like your answer.
Good.
Yeah. Have to happen for that to make sense to me on why they would ever divide and kind of split up.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, look at someone like Mari, who's she's the worst. She's so, Lottie says this, therefore we do this.
But
like,
where are they going to go? You know what I mean? Like their resources are scarce.
The tunnels.
Well, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Where's Javi been?
Where's Javi been and who has he been with?
I liked his vulva drawing.
His vulva drawing.
The vulvas.
Yes. I saw that as tree roots.
It was, right?
I know. It was. Yeah.
Did you see the lady?
And kind of like in the middle towards the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I sent you the screenshot.
I did see it. Yeah.
There's 3 main tree roots or systems, and the middle one on the right side.
Yes.
There's a figure of a woman inside of it.
Yes, I did see that.
So I think that's telling us there are indeed tunnels, mining tunnels, and Hobby was either with others or with maybe dark Ty, like Ty who sits in a tree and eats dirt. You know?
Yeah.
Like Sammy was saying, like, you know, the bad one, not you, mommy. Like,
right, exactly. Like
Hobby
Van at the end going, oh, you're the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if Hobby has, because I believe Ty was the first one, you know, back then who's like, all right, who took a shit in the pee bucket and who took the lantern, and noticing all these things.
Right.
And she was doing a lot of walking around at night.
Yep.
So who might Hobby have run into?
This is true.
Who would be a friend?
So I wonder if it would be, well, yeah, I wonder if it would be, was everybody that was on the plane, were they like all accounted for? Or was there anyone that was like missing that they never found?
Are you looking for Tailies?
I'm looking for Tailies.
Michelle Rodriguez.
I love that. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing.
I believe they're all dead or in the cabin.
Okay.
They're all accounted for.
Okay. So we had the fight, confirmation of Crystal's death. Okay.
Yeah. So the main thing is that Sean is like, you don't have my back. I'm feeling really alone. You're siding with Lottie. I think this, you know, the conversation between Akila and Ty earlier, when Akila was like, me and my friend did this ritual before games. And you know, talk about like, when does a superstition turn into something more dangerous? I'm wondering if Sean is feeling that fear that, like, I know you're just doing the tree cult for Van, but I'm worried that when push comes to shove, that you might go too far or turn.
Right, yeah. And you won't have my back, and yeah.
Right. I
need somebody to have my back.
Right. Someone.
Yeah.
Just one person.
One person.
Because Hobby's not talking, so who does she have, really?
I know, she really doesn't seem to have anybody right now.
Do you think?
And that's got to be really scary too for her.
Yeah. I wonder if she alienated herself. Well, she did after Jackie, you know, like,
right,
I don't deserve a friend.
Yeah.
I'm just going to hang out with her corpse in the meat shack.
Yeah. And Misty comes running in, and, you know, it made me think about how she was such a, you know, how Crystal told her she was a bad actress, but she came running in, man, and she sold that as best she could. And you could tell she was like really trying to pull it out, and at the end felt satisfied that she had convinced them.
Totally.
Yeah.
I noted that, I was looking for what's the moment when the storm starts up. And it seems to occur right when Shauna has her first contraction.
Okay. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, so Misty sells it, and then the girls are like, how are we going to find them? They're out in the middle of nowhere. They're calling for Ty and Shauna, and then Misty's like, Crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you get the whole, like, they go into their tree cult knowledge.
Right. And I was wondering if they were like really connecting and hearing each other through the wind, or if that was meant to just kind of represent like them communing with nature.
I have a couple thoughts. So they're chanting. So Ty separately, like propping Shauna up, and then the girls, I hear my breath, I hear the trees, I hear my friends wanting to find us. I hear my breath, I hear the trees, I hear my friends coming back to us. One thought was that, so one thought was, when you're looking for someone, you know, when you get lost, start calling out so we can locate you by your voice, by the sounds you're making. So they're, you know, each group calling out would be easier to find each other, right?
Right.
Also, I thought about in the pilot when we're watching, you know, Pit Girl running, and we hear the girls making the animal noises, like calls that animals make across distances to find each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Made me think of that too.
Yeah.
And then we get that static buzz of the TV that we got when Coach Ben was having his memory slash
that's
sideways.
true. That's right.
And I'm wondering what that means. Is that meant to indicate that this isn't real somehow? Like there isn't a magical tree cult magic or power.
Yeah, that like
this is imagined power.
I think that's a possibility. I mean, it could just be a transition.
But the show doesn't do that.
But yeah, exactly. It was very purposeful, and I saw it that one other time too. So there's got to be a reason for it. But I don't know. I don't know if it means that it didn't happen or if it means that something that is indicating like a struggle for one of the characters in their minds. If it didn't happen, who's the one that's like imagining it? I don't know. Ty?
Well, I thought for a minute the baby, like what the baby's experiencing. All this noise. Buzz. I don't know. Yeah, it's strange. I didn't know what to make of it. And I didn't see any theories about it.
Yeah.
Online, but I caught it. I mean, hard to miss.
We see Van pulling the Oxy out of the trash.
Takes it, and then she turns around and there's Ty's altar, kisses her. Oh, you're the other one, aren't you? Oh, what do you want? And then she
isn't
says,
where we're supposed to be.
I wrote, Altar wants to fuck. I thought she was, I thought she was moving them to the bedroom.
I just thought we have to go back.
I agree with your interpretation.
Yeah, and then they show us that, that last memory with Nat and Travis on the crash site. I did think that there had to be something significant about the fact that she was having this vision of the crash site where they didn't make it and they were all charred. Additionally, there was some pictures of the girls completely charred. They put them in bodysuits and makeup.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so the chatter was that it was interesting that like for the 30 seconds that we saw that scene, that they would have done that extensive hair and makeup and, all of that.
I was just going to say, why not just put dummies?
Exactly. Why didn't you use dummies? That was the big question. So I think.
You think they filmed other scenes with them?
I think there's probably going to be more to that in this episode.
Like them calling out to each other, like, oh, I'm on fire, or walking ominously.
Yeah, walking off. Yeah, I think, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think that like this is all in somebody's head, but I do think that there's an importance to the fact that she's like, we didn't make it, we didn't survive.
So I saw a theory on Reddit. I saw a couple theories online, not just Reddit, that, perhaps this is a other timeline, like multiverse, in one timeline, we didn't make it. In one timeline, we did. And in one timeline, Coach Ben didn't get on the plane.
And maybe that is what we make of the static in the TV. And
like in one timeline, Shauna and Ty are lost in the storm.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I thought, is it a hint? Is it a warning when they talk about not making it? Maybe it's a warning.
I live in a state where we get a lot of snow in the winter. And when I first moved here after college, I experienced my first like real snowstorm where you can't see like a foot in front of you. My friends and I, we'd all like pre-gaming at our apartment and decided to go to a bar about 3 blocks down and 2 blocks to the left where there was a live show playing. And we got to the show. And then when we're walking back home, the storm had really picked up and we were like, all right, I'm going to retrace our steps. We go 2 blocks to the right and then, 3 blocks over. We ended up so far away.
Wow.
We got so lost and we were like, how did this happen?
Yeah. I was watching that going like, how on earth did they end up at the cabin? Like, there's no way.
Sound. But, snow muffles everything.
Yeah, very true.
It's really difficult for people that are seeing impaired to navigate in snow because it's like throwing your voice. It really plays with noise.
The other interesting thing about the vision or the memory that Nat is having, or whatever it is, the Antler Queen walks onto the plane.
Yes, like she's picking out.
Yeah, like she's coming to get them.
Yeah, like I'm gonna take you and you and you. You've got
So
darkness, you've got darkness, you've got darkness.
perhaps that is also a option, that they were rescued by the Antler Queen.
The same one that saved Javi.
Yeah, and maybe they were allowed to, continue living, or she brought them back to life or something like that.
For what purpose? For
To
good or
serve
evil?
her. I don't know. I mean, probably, I don't know that it would be one or the other. I think the show wants you to believe that everything is good, and like that they're the duality of stuff. So I don't know if that would be good or evil, maybe a bit of both.
I like the ambivalence in Nat's statement about the darkness. We brought it back with us, or maybe it was in us.
Right. So, but maybe it got them from the very beginning and they just didn't realize it or really know. I mean, the likelihood of that many of them surviving a crash like that is so slim, if you really think about it.
How many were
how do they
there?
survive that? They plowed right into the ground.
On a little plane.
On a little plane. Yeah. It's just so.
And how did Van escape?
Right. We don't know.
I mean, just 1 minute she's stuck. Neither Jackie nor Shauna can get her out. And then she pops up on the other side.
Yeah.
Like, hey, guys.
What up?
What up?
So there might be more to all of that than we realize.
Yeah. We might see another version of the crash.
Yeah. Maybe that was the real version of the crash.
Ooh.
So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Oh, I wanted to note Misty, joining the cult.
Yes.
Oh, finally, can you help me? Please, I want to join. And I wrote the story of Misty's life. I want to join.
Exactly. Misty
just
wants to be a part of anything.
Yeah.
This will be perfect for her. I bet you she just really fits right on in there.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
Yeah. She's just going to fit right in. It's going to be interesting.
The sharing shack? What? Where is that?
Sharing shack. She is ready for the sharing shack.
Yeah. Point me to it.
And maybe she'll work through some of her issues.
Does she have issues?
None whatsoever. None of them have issues. They're all just perfectly healthy.
Yeah. Coping just fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited for episode 6. I'm excited to find out what happens with Shauna's baby, and
oh my gosh.
And what happens with Misty and the cult, and when they all finally get to reunite there. So it seems like it'll be a really, really good episode, and I can't wait to watch it. They're on hiatus for a week, so
do we know why?
No. At least I haven't looked it up or whatever. I just saw a couple people mention it.
Well, I can't wait.
Who knows? But yes. All right. Well, I think that's it for this one, unless you have anything else.
There's another show that drops. What? It dropped.
It is out. Yes.
It's been dropped.
It has been from. It is now on MGM Plus, which you can access through Amazon Prime as well. MGM Plus is formerly Epix. Actually, that's where it was before. And it's a great show. If you haven't watched it, season 1 was really cool. It's got some of the same people that made Lost. Jack Bender directed the pilot and the second episode for sure. And I think maybe 1 or 2 other episodes of the first season. And it definitely has very, very similar Lost vibes in terms of the style of Lost.
It's like mystery box horror.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Starring Harold Perrineau. Perrineau.
And he's wonderful in it. He's so good.
He was Michael.
Walt.
Father of Walt.
Yes. And he's great. And it is it's a show about a group of people that are kind of stuck in this town that the fans have dubbed Fromville. So basically you're driving along, this family's driving along, and they hit a tree that's fallen in the middle of the road, and they try to go past it and go around it, and they end up driving in circles, and they keep passing through this one town over and over again. And so they finally stop and are, discover that they can't get out of there, and that at night when the sun goes down, these scary, scary monsters seem to come out and rip you from limb to limb, and they try to get into your homes as well.
They're monsters that look like that are people,
yes.
Sometimes people that like,
right.
It's your grandmother. Don't you remember me? I, died when you were 5, and
yeah,
I'm here to give you a big hug. You just have to let me in. It's very vampire vibes. You have to open the door for me, or you have to open a window for me. I can't just break in.
Right. Yeah. It's a little like Midnight Mass.
Ooh.
Type meets Lost meets
Dracula.
Trying to think of something else that like I could mash it together with, but it's really good. And the second season premiere dropped last night, Saturday, between the 22nd and 23rd. And so if you've watched the show or you're interested in it, definitely check it out. We're going to be covering that show as well.
It's a very cool show.
Yes, we're excited to talk about that too. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us for this one. And let us know your theories. If you haven't already subscribed, we hope you'll do so if you enjoy the channel, and ring the bell so you get notifications and alerts on when we drop new videos and when we start covering other shows as well. And yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts and theories too. All right, y'all, have a wonderful week. Stay out of the snow. Don't piss off the nature gods. And we hope you'll come back to our share shack for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.